everyone, and welcome to the meeting, the weekly meeting of the four-time District 6150 Club of the Year. We'll start this off by calling it to order. Get my bell in here. Hopefully everybody heard that.
Yeah.
And we've got an inspirational moment. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity, Albert Einstein. And then we've got our Rotary four-way test. Everyone knows that. I won't have everybody say it, so we have echoes everywhere, but you see that. And then Rotary is to get, our vision is together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. I'm glad to have anybody that's a guest online. Would like to have you come back. You can visit jonesbororotary.org, to find out about becoming a member, and love to have you here full time. So we'll do this every Tuesday right now online, and hopefully be face-to-face, and maybe do a combo meeting down the road where we have some people face-to-face, mask to mask, and then online as well. Last week, I guess really the last few weeks, where the Jonesboro University Rotary Club is selling. So if anyone is interested or knows somebody that maybe could use a meal and want to donate them one for carry out, then there's that information there. I think that's been shared in the newsletter as well. And now it's time for our program. So I've got, I guess most of us know Dr. Damphousse, and know that he's a member of our club. So I've got an introduction here that was sent to me. I'll try to go through some of this, and then I'll turn it over to him and let him go through his slides.
Hey,
but
don't read all that. I know what they sent you. It's sometimes the introduction is longer than the presentation.
It just says you like to take a lot of selfies.
That's it.
No, okay. Well, then I'll turn it over to you and let you share your screen. This could be a good selfie with the Zoom.
I think I'll try that out. Let me see. Here we go. I'm gonna see if I can share this with you guys. Can you all see that? All right. Can you guys see the slides now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Very good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get rolling. Thank you all for inviting me to come and share a little bit of what's going on at Arkansas State. There is a lot going on here, and I know we have a lot of A-State people here, and they're actually going to be incredibly bored by this presentation, because we've been, communicating as much as possible with them. But we wanted to, as part of our strategy was to be communicate as widely as possible what was going on here, because we know that uncertainty leads to anxiety, and we don't want people to be anxious about what our plans are. And so I'm going to give kind of a 50,000 level view of what we're doing here at Arkansas State. It's probably 15 or 20 minutes of chat here. And then I would love to answer any questions you guys have. If you want to type them into the chat box, it's sometimes a little easier to answer those questions that way. Happy to do that as well. Does that time sound about right? 10, 15 minutes or so?
That'd be fine.
Perfect. All right, thanks. And so let's go ahead and get started here. And I thought I'd give you some context here about where we were. And there's the first selfie of the day. How's that? And so this is a picture I took on March 7th, 2020. My wife and I took our kids and their significant others, and we went to a beach. My wife likes to know that there's a beach out there. She doesn't like to be on the beach. She doesn't like to be in the water. She just likes to know there's palm trees and beach. And we were going to take a little vacation before the end of the semester kind of hit. That's when there's a huge rush, and the end of March and through April, and then into May. Typically, it's pretty tough. So it's really the only time we can really easily get away. And so that was March 7th. This is March 11th. And so we are now in the midst of trying to deal with this COVID-19 crisis on our campus. The picture over here on the far left is me sitting. It's not a very attractive picture of me, but it's a picture of me sitting by the patio door, Zooming with my emergency operations team. And then you've got other pictures here. You can see in the top right-hand corner, my cabinet is meeting, and they actually have a picture of me, one of my fat heads in my chair. And we basically I spent the rest of my vacation dealing with COVID-19 virtually. And actually, that's been everyone's experience ever since this has started. People have all started moving virtually. The picture at the bottom left is my family taking a picture. My wife's not very good at selfies, but she took this picture of them having fun while I was working, and then another picture with our meeting with our deans. And so the nice thing about where we are technologically is that we're able to, even though we're distanced from each other, we're able to keep up with folks. But really, our COVID-19 response, oh, I was gonna put this picture here. This is actually March 14th, this is way home. I had no idea what was happening in America, but I knew that toilet paper was a big deal. So I packed up all the toilet paper in the room before I left, and I made a bunch of I paid for my whole vacation when I got back from that. I also have a picture on the far left, right-hand corner here of the screen. And that is a picture I took as we were sitting in the airport. This couple came over, and they literally with alcohol swabs and wipes wiped down the chairs before they sat on them. And I thought, where have we gotten in this world? People are actually wiping down where they sit on something to keep themselves safe. And it was a foreshadowing of people's anxiety about this, about COVID-19. Much of the information that you would want to know about what's happening in Arkansas State is actually located on our coronavirus website. And so it's astate.edu/coronavirus. And you can capture everything that we've done, all of our frequently asked questions here, our return to learn plan, every email we sent out about this is all located there if you wanted to go dig through this and kind of see the scenario. But I thought I'd share with you a couple of things here. We actually have this website on our communications, or on our website, that is about our campus communications. And you see, it actually lists all the emails that I sent or the provost has sent about coronavirus. Dating back, you see the very first group is in January. And so we sent an email out then. In fact, here are those emails. On January 24th, we sent an email out saying, hey, there's this virus in Wuhan, and CDC's mentioned this, and we all need to be paying attention to this if we're going to travel. And then 4 days later, start talking about, the governor is giving a press conference on that day, and it said that we don't have any cases in Arkansas, but we have to be prepared. And you can see just how things rapidly changed from January 24th, talking about this place no one ever heard of before, and 4 days later, really action-oriented steps that the governor was taking and that we felt like we had to take on our campus. And so as early as January, we were talking about what was happening in Arkansas State, but things really ramped up. And I'm giving this as a background to kind of set the stage for how things happen or will happen in the fall. This is an example of a 2-day period in March, in mid-March. This is actually leading up to I think this is right after we decided to not bring students back for after spring break. And you can see on March 19th, I sent out an email about working from home. And then it seems like I thought that was going to be my email for the day. And then I had to send something out later on that day. And I ended up having 6 emails to the entire campus on that single day on March 19th. And on March 20th, I thought, oh, I'm all caught up. Let me just put out an update in the morning to see where we are. And then by the afternoon, things had changed so dramatically, I had to put an afternoon update, and things were just changing so dramatically, not just on our campus across the state, but trying to keep on top of that was really hard. And we started talking in our office about, like dog years are different from human years. We felt like COVID days are like human years. And so like things just happen so quickly. It's so hard to keep up. But we really did work hard on trying to communicate with everyone on what was going on here. We also have a very extensive FAQ section. So if you want to know anything about COVID-19, about what we're doing, if you're a student or an employee or a guest who wants to find or that's going to come to campus, or if you're just curious about the university and our response, if you go to our main page and just scroll down, we have all our FAQs, or frequently asked questions, at the bottom, and they're actually pretty interesting here. And this is just for anyone. What do I do if I feel sick? Here are the symptoms. Here's the place to call. Here's a phone number to call if you're a student on campus. Here's a place to go. You want to go to St. Bernard's to get tested, and so on. So every one of these questions has an answer, so we don't have to keep answering the questions over and over again. And you can see that COVID-19 really has taken place everywhere. This is our alumni magazine. If you're one of our alumni, I hope you got this. It's actually, I'm very proud of the publication. It is such a great job of telling the A-State story here. But you can tell even our cover of our magazine includes a mask, and this is actually one that my wife made, and she got in the habit of making masks for people around the state. and here locally as well. Interestingly, we discovered that we didn't have any mask making material that is Red Wolf branded anywhere. It just didn't exist. You could buy material for Auburn and Alabama and another big school here in the state of Arkansas, but you couldn't buy Red Wolf material. So she had that actually custom made by one of her local companies here, and she got about 10 yards of it, and then she made a bunch of masks and ran out of it. But those are one-of-a-kind collector's items right there. COVID-19 is also everywhere. You can see here, even when we're discussing incredibly difficult things like race relations and race on the university campus and the national conversation here, all that's having to be done in the context of COVID-19. And so we're doing these very difficult conversations virtually, and that's actually a huge challenge that all of us are dealing with, not just the university. But I give you all that to provide some context about where we are going to be in the fall. And we've prepared this based on everything we've learned and all the things we've done in the past several months or so. We've designed something called the Return to Learn Plan for Fall 2020. And this is actually a PDF document, but we actually have not distributed the PDF because we know the plan will change over time, and we don't want people carrying around the old document. So what we've made available online is a living, breathing document that is being added to all the time. And so I want to share with you a little bit about how we put that plan together, and then about what some of the details are. And again, you might have some questions here. The first thing I'll mention up front is that the health and safety of our employees, our students, and our guests are the highest priority in everything that we do with this plan. We weigh every decision we make about, is this the best way to keep people healthy and safe? And to be honest, everything we're learning is that the only way to keep people healthy and safe is to keep them at home and not come to our campus at all. But we also have to weigh our mission. Our mission is to create a high quality learning and teaching and working environment as possible. So we have to weigh both of those things. So it's not how do we keep people as safe as possible, but how to keep people as safe as practical. If we want to have the university open, how can we do that safely? And I just have a couple pictures here. That big picture, by the way, is that was from our announcement of our vet school plans that we're looking at. That continues apace. We're still looking in, working on bringing the first vet school in Arkansas to campus, and that was from the press release. The picture down in the bottom left-hand corner is from graduation. We've had to make some adjustments to graduation. We're actually going to hold our graduation this year in both the spring graduation and the August graduation in the first week of August in the football stadium, so we can spread everybody out. Then the last picture at the bottom right is a student who is just like, life goes on, and I'm going to decide I'm going to work on a degree online. And so this student got admitted to A-State to complete his degree. He's a teacher in Texas who's going to work in our online program. So life goes on. How do we keep people as safe as practical going forward? And then finally, we've relied on guidance from the CDC and WHO, but mostly the CDC. We pay a lot of attention to that. And then we have religiously every day, my wife and I have our coffee break at 1:30, so we watch the governor's press conference like many of you do. I take screenshots all the time and send it to my team, say, hey, Northeast Arkansas is looking pretty good, like that picture in the middle. But also the governor's been here in town a couple of times, one with the tornado, but also about the COVID-19 response. So working close with him and Dr. Smith and the Department of Education as well. We just got off the Zoom with them just now talking about bringing folks back. So we're trying to use all the information that's available for us to make the best plans possible. We're also working closely with local health authorities, the two major hospitals in our community. There's a lot of excellent resources there. We also have on our campus, of course, NYIT's medical school. And so Shane Spites, who's the health official, and you all have heard from him in the past for the county, his office, I can actually see his office from my office. And so we're working very closely with him. And we're actually going to partner with NYIT to do testing on our campus for employees and students, and also contact tracing as well. And so we're working very close with local folks, especially with Shane Spites and his team at NYIT. On our plan that we put together, it's really easy. And I've seen some universities do this where the people in the administration building make the plan, and then tell everyone how it's all going to work. And we decided we want to be as inclusive as possible on our campus. And so we created these continuity task forces led by a member of our cabinet. And then each one of them built a team that designed our Return to Learn program, our Return to Learn plan. They made recommendations to me, and basically I accepted all their recommendations because they're all so good. The thing here is that faculty, staff, and students all played a role, and community members played a role in building our plan. And so Dr. Alan Utter, who's our provost, led our teaching, learning, and discovery plan. That was composed primarily of faculty members, but also some staff members from academic affairs who came together and said, here's how we want to do this. And here's the best evidence we have out there. The plans we make today, we all recognize, may not be what's in effect in the fall, but this gives us a starting point. It's very conservative in nature. If things loosen up, if the virus stops being as spreading as quickly and things start to loosen up, we can relax the standards. But right now, if we had to teach classes today, and by the way, we are teaching classes on our campus as we speak. We have classes going on in summer session 2 in person. But if we had to teach the fall semester as things are today, we've got a plan to do that. And it goes through the entire continuity of the campus. And I'm going to focus on this one first because I think it really is the thing that most people are concerned about. The first thing we're paying attention to is having a flexible mode of delivery. We predict that somewhere along the line, a faculty member who's teaching a class will get sick from COVID or something else could happen, or that a student in the class will get sick, or we may have to quarantine a class because they were associated or close contact with someone who was in their classroom. Or it may be that we have a classroom, we can't spread people out enough, and so we have to teach half the class on Monday and the other half class in person on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then have the other group watch it online. So you have this flexible model of delivery. It's also called the hybrid model or high flex model, so that you can spread people out, do the amount of teaching that needs to be done, have some face-to-face instruction, but also keep people as safe or as distanced as we practically can. I have a picture down here of how difficult or how challenging it can be to teach a class like music face-to-face online. You really can't do it. So you have some students here who couldn't perform live together, and so they all independently made a video of them playing a song and listening to a click track, and then the professor put their music all together so they could actually perform together. But that was an incredible amount of work and took a lot of work for us to do. And so we want to have as much as possible face-to-face classes, but also recognize that we may need to have some flexibility in it. We also recognize that in addition to music, there's a lot of classes that are really hard to replicate in person, online. So this is mostly classes, laboratories, things where students are actually manipulating objects, the nursing program and engineering. We need to be able to do those things. We tried to do them online in the spring. We were as successful as anybody in the country was, but there's still some inability to do some of the things you need to do face-to-face. We also worry about a second wave or another peak coming of COVID-19, and we recognize that we have to be able to transition back to all online if need be. We did that in the spring almost overnight. It seemed like we transitioned to all online classes, and students were very forgiving of us because they recognized how quickly we had to do it. I don't think they'll be as forgiving of us if we transition in the middle of the fall and we're not prepared for that. We have to be prepared to transition everything all online if things happen. And then finally, we have a Thanksgiving option in place. Some universities have already announced what their plans are for post-Thanksgiving. I think it's too soon, so we're going to wait until October to make that decision. But if things are going well, we will just continue with our semester as is. There's about 10 days of classes after, 7 days of classes after Thanksgiving, and we'll just continue through as planned. But if things go bad, if things are getting kind of hairy and people are very nervous about people's health and safety, we will not have classes face-to-face after Thanksgiving, allow people to go home for Thanksgiving and not come back. And then the classes will be held online and final exams will be held online as well, which will give us about a 6-week period between Thanksgiving and the beginning of the next semester. Actually be almost an 8-week period as a break. So that will be done if we need to, but we don't know for sure if we're going to need that to happen. So that is how we're going to do learning here. We're also paying attention to our staff. We know that we have some staff that have to be here on campus, and they are we're called critical personnel. We have other staff who can work from home, and so we're allowing them to work at home now. But we're slowly bringing those staff back on the campus. We have another category of employees who are at high risk because of their health conditions, or maybe if as someone that they have responsibility for, they're at high risk for that as well. And so that's category 3 people. And those will be the last people that we bring back to campus. We'll allow them to stay off campus as much as possible. We'll also encourage people, if they get sick, if they're feeling symptomatic, to not come to work. That's a huge deal for us. We don't want people who are sick to come back in if they're not sick. And so we want people to stay away if they are. We're also going to be, we have a very slow process of bringing people back to campus. Their supervisor has to provide a plan. Our emergency operations center has to approve it, and so on. Again, trying to keep people as safe as possible. But I'll throw through these slides pretty quickly. We've been turning the whole campus into a physically distanced campus. And so you see we put tape over certain areas of desks and chairs, so we don't want people sitting too close to each other. The bottom picture of the 2 chairs here, the one on the right is what we don't want to do, because we can, certainly that implies that you shouldn't sit in that chair. We're putting straps over chairs instead to keep people from sitting on chairs that are too close to each other. We also have signs posted at every door. We're warning people not to enter if they've got certain symptoms, and a warning on how to keep themselves safe when they enter the buildings. People entering and exiting to the right, so we have people not going in and out the same door when possible. This is the picture on the left-hand side here, left top corner, is the commissioning ceremony from ROTC. We did 1 student cadet at a time. We only allowed 10 family members in the room. They were all socially distanced. And that ceremony that normally takes an hour took about 6 hours to do. But that's the kind of processing we're going to do. The picture on the right-hand side is how we're dividing up classes so we can get the maximum number of people into a classroom while still socially distancing by at least 6 feet. And then the bottom picture is a picture I took yesterday for one of our student groups that just started. You can see we're spreading tables out. We're making sure people in family groups can sit together, but otherwise separated by at least 6 feet. So we're looking at physical distancing. We're putting red wolf dots all over campus to promote social distancing, and again, putting tapes over areas. So this is a sofa. That's a love seat with 2 seats. We taped off one side, and you can certainly sit on the other side. This is a sofa with 3 seats. We taped off one of the sides to spread things out and so on. We're also going to require masks on campus. This is I know, controversial area. The city does not require masks. The state does not require masks, but we are going to require masks for everyone unless they're in the middle of eating like you do at restaurants. And we've made promotional videos. The idea here is masks on and wolves up. Again, we recognize that we wear masks to protect others from us in case we're symptomatic or asymptomatic and maybe sick. We don't want to infect other people. It's not to protect me, it's to protect other people. And that's the message we're trying to get out. And then here's some of the signs we have around campus and so on. Some of the masks that we have. There's a whole industry about making masks. And then there's a picture of one of our faculty members who bought a shield for herself. And we're actually going to buy face shields for all of our faculty members, so that when they're in the front of a classroom, sometimes if the voice is too muffled by a cloth face mask, it's hard to hear them. So we're going to provide face shields for our faculty who are in front of the classroom, so they can continue to teach as well. And then now this has not gone without any controversy. This is, I'm not sure I think this is like a fake account here, but they're concerned about my liberal political party lines and my mask propaganda, but that's okay. It is what it is. And then there's some little things that are changing. We won't move everybody in on Saturday. This has been a tradition at Arkansas State for years, for church groups to come in and everybody gets all hot and sweaty and everyone's helping everybody move in. We're just going to spread everything out and make sure that not everyone gets here at the same time, so we can limit the number of people that are interacting with each other. Football games, who knows what's going to happen with football? We're at the mercy of our league and our partners and the NCAA and so on. Right now, football is planning to go ahead as scheduled. We don't know if we'll have fans in the stands. We hope we will. There may be a limitation on how many get in there. Some universities have already announced they'll only allow season ticket holders to get in, but that's that we'll get there when we get there. Residence life, we spread out people as much as possible throughout our residence halls. Our upperclassmen dorms are actually all full this year. Our freshman dorms, we have a little bit more room there. We've always had some slack space, and so we've spread people out as much as possible. But some of our students, they want to have a roommate and they want to have a suite mate, and so we're honoring their requests as well. And then testing and tracing, we're going to make sure that anyone who wants to get tested, we're not testing everybody, but if you're symptomatic or you're curious, you can get tested and we'll trace you. Our biggest concern now is how this works. So if somebody tests positive in a class, is everybody in the classroom been exposed, or just people sitting next to them? I think it's following towards the latter. If you're within a 6-foot area of someone and you spend an hour sitting beside them, we may classify you as exposed and ask you to go get tested and to quarantine for a while. And then how do we manage that? If we are isolating and quarantining people, we've got to deliver food to the residence hall and so on, because we don't want them traipsing around campus as well. So those are some of the things we're looking at. It's exciting. We've learned a lot since March, actually since January, and we continue to learn more, and rules continue to change. And so we're getting better along the way as we move forward. But with that said, I'm ready to start answering any questions that people have.
Dr. Damphousse?
Yeah.
You kind of answered part, I guess, really probably gave me the answer that you're only going to be able to. I'm kind of curious about if you have a student athlete test positive that's during the season, what, do you have any idea what that's going to mean? I mean, does it mean shutting down for everybody on the team, shutting the entire team down for a 2-week period, or is it, I mean, how's that going to be handled? I know they probably haven't given you a lot of guidance.
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't have a lot of guidance on that right now. There's a lot of school of thoughts out there about what we should do with athletics. There are some people who believe we should test. Most people are mostly talking about football. We have soccer and volleyball going on and track as well. But if we just look at football, they play once a week. They play on Saturday for the most part. Sometimes they play midweek. Now we should test football players 3 times a week, and then test them right before they play. And if they test positive, then they can't play. Well, the problem with that is that we have really a long lag between a test and notification of positive or negative. Now there are some rapid response kits, but those are not as reliable. So if you test someone on Thursday, you might not find out till Sunday that they were positive. Then let's say you find out quickly that they're positive, then you have to find out who they interacted with. And it might be that an offensive lineman didn't interact with very many people at all because they kept everybody separate. But a quarterback may have interacted with more people because they're in the huddle and they're yelling at people and so on. And then you have to trace who they had close contact with for an extended period of time. And then you have to quarantine those people with close contacts and isolate the person who tested positive. And the isolation and quarantine times are changing. That used to be 14 days. Now it's changing to 10 days. Now I'm hearing if you have two negative tests separated by 24 hours, that you can be released from quarantine. That's a new CDC guideline the PGA Golf Association is using right now. So there are changing strategies here. The problem is if you test students on Thursday and you get a quick response and it says negative, nothing says they can't get exposed on Friday or Saturday morning before a game. And so the testing requirement is kind of going by the wayside. Testing everybody is going by the wayside because we don't know what we're doing with that. What will be a bigger challenge will be what to do with someone who tests positive, and if testing positive, you have to go in isolation. There's no question about that. It's tracing who they had contact with, and then the extent to which we can quarantine those people until we test them. There's a big problem here in the state right now is that in the contact tracing, people are not being responsive to the tracers. They tested positive. The tracing people call them up. They won't answer the phone. When they talk to them, they say, oh, I didn't contact anybody. They won't, because they don't want to get their friends locked up in quarantine for 14 days. And so I would hope our students and our staff and faculty would be honest about that. But there's a problem nationally with contact tracing and people just not being truthful once they realize the consequences of their friends getting impacted. And that's why masks are so important to us. If you're wearing a mask and you're testing positive, that limits how much you're exposing other people. And we know we've had several students test positive this summer. It made the paper. None of them were symptomatic either when they got tested or after they recovered. No symptoms at all, but they had it and they may have been carriers. That's why we want them all to be wearing masks.
Okay. We had there's a question in the chat box. How will sorority recruitment work this year?
Yeah, that's great. There's a large conversation about sorority recruitment right now, which has traditionally been across the country been done the week before school starts. Our plans right now are to continue that. There has been a conversation about moving recruitment to the spring semester when things are thought to be better. But frankly, we don't know if they'll be better. There's this hope that there's a vaccine out there that'll become available in the fall, but we may never have a vaccine. And so that's a reality out there. And so for the most part, most Greek associations have decided to stick with the fall recruitment the week before school starts. They will do a lot of things differently, separating people, everybody wearing masks, not having as many of the parties and so on. Bid day will look a lot different. It's very likely that parents won't be invited to bid day, so we can limit the number of interactions with people and so on. It's going to look different. They're still working on plans, and the good thing is that this is a national conversation, so everyone in the country is dealing with it, and we'll use the plans that are the best practices nationally.
All right. There's another question. You may have already mentioned this, but where do students without transportation get tested if they think they have contracted COVID?
That's great. So when we first started this, we told people if you feel sick, don't go to the student health center because we don't want you to infect people there. Call them and they will set you up, and you can go to the local health clinic and get tested there. And back in March, boy, I mean, you guys probably know people like I do that were getting tested and not hearing anything for 11 days and so on. We recognized that there was now luckily we had a lot of students just leave campus and a lot of people were working from home. And so we didn't have as many people living on campus. By the way, we did have about 900 students stay on campus because they had nowhere else to go. International students, people who are basically on their own, people who had no Wi-Fi at home or didn't have a safe home to go to. Out of 2,800 students who lived on campus, 900 stayed after we sent everybody home. So that's one of the reasons we really need to stay open. We are working with NYIT. We've identified a place on campus where students and staff, employees will be able to walk to, and we'll do the testing right there. It's actually not far from my office, so it's centrally located. It won't be at the student health center because that's actually not a very easy place to get to if you don't have a car. And we don't want people going there if they're feeling symptomatic. It'll be a little closer to central part of campus. That's a great question. I see a question about visitors on campus. Visitors will be required to follow the rules that we're having our employees and students follow. I hear a lot of people, not here locally, but I hear a lot of people complaining about the students are going to be the big problem. But this is everybody. It's not just students. When you go to stores in Jonesboro and restaurants in Jonesboro, you see people not wearing their mask yet, and they're not 18 to 20 year olds. They're people my age who are not wearing a mask. And I understand. I empathize with people who struggle with this issue because I don't want to. Everyone comes at this from a different perspective. And I have very good friends who are opposed to masks, and I understand their perspective. But on our campus, we're going to hold everyone to that level. We're going to require students and employees and visitors to wear masks when they come on a campus. If you come to campus and you have to be there and you don't have a mask, we've got disposable masks. We'll give you one. We'll hand them all out to folks. It's got to be, when you carry I never leave without carrying my phone. I never leave without carrying my mask. So my mask and my phone, let me put this again. My mask and my phone are together in the same pocket. And so we just have to get used to that. And I think we will in time. We're not going to police it by calling the UPD and having people arrest people or give tickets for not wearing them. We don't do that for smoking. We don't allow smoking on campus. But we do enforce smoking by socially enforcing it, by telling people to stop smoking if we see them doing that. So that's how we'll do that. And hopefully guests will get that. We'll have the biggest problem with athletic events, I think, with people coming and not wanting. They have a wider variety of people, and it's hot out, especially going to football games, not wanting to wear a mask inside. But that's just how it is.
Let's see. There's another question. Well, I guess along those lines, how will you monitor or enforce those guidelines?
Yeah, I've had a few questions about this actually, and I think the important thing is that we have to show some grace to people. My wife sent me to the store on Sunday to buy some stuff. So I went to Kroger's. I'm not going to call it some businesses here. So I went to Kroger and it didn't have what I needed, but I got the other things. And then my buddies and I said, well, we need to go to Walmart to get something else. And so while we're getting something else, I ran over to the grocery section to see if I could find that thing that she wanted. It was some kind of ranch dip powder thing. And I had my mask on, but I hadn't been to Walmart for a long time, and because we shop elsewhere. And I didn't see the signs that said one way in the aisles. And I was looking at, what aisle I need to be on. I was going to duck in, and I walked down the aisle, and this woman who was walking towards me with her cart kind of sarcastically said, well, I guess these signs aren't doing any good. And I didn't even know what she was talking about. And then I realized, this is the one way everyone's talking about. I'm going the wrong way. And I apologized and left. Now she did it kind of sarcastically. I think maybe she was trying to make a point or whatever. I wasn't trying to violate. I just didn't know. And once I knew it, I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this and do the right thing. That's how we have to do this, I think, in our interpersonal level here. Recognize that people may not have a mask, may not know the answer, may not know the rule, and just explain to people, hey, you can't smoke on our campus. It's a smoke-free campus. I say that all the time to people. Hey, don't forget to wear your mask. I saw 4 students walk into the Union the other day. I was filming the First Friday video, and they walked by. One of them had a mask, and 3 of them didn't. So I elbow bumped the guy with the mask and said, hey, good for you for wearing your mask. And I asked the other 3 guys, where's your mask? And they went, oh, we forgot. Well, when the chancellor says that to you enough times, you're going to start wearing your mask. And so hopefully by socially enforcing it, we can get there. We can get that to happen.
And when will campus testing station open for business?
That's a great question. We're still working on the details on that. We have identified the space. NYIT is looking at exactly what we can do. And I expect it to be open in August before school starts.
And I see another one in the chat. Can you speak to the impact of the recent plan from Homeland Security on international students and online study?
Yeah, I'll give a little context there. It's a great question. There has been, and there has always been a rule that students who are on student visas who came to the States could not take all online courses. And the idea was there was a fear that students, and I'm an international student, I came on a student visa, I had the same rules as well, that we didn't have a lot of online courses back then. But the idea is that you were coming to our campus to take classes, not to, and that's where you should be. And so they were worried about people, taking advantage of the system, coming on a student visa, and then taking online classes and then going off in the country and doing things they weren't supposed to be doing. That rule has always been in place. This spring, when we transitioned to all online classes, we had to get a waiver saying that students, international students who were in country taking classes, who now were taking all online classes, in the olden days, they would have had to leave the country. Well, the federal government granted a waiver to allow those students to stay. International students were allowed to take all online classes. Yesterday, the federal government announced that they weren't going to extend that waiver into the fall semester. Now, and so what they're saying is students shouldn't come to this country to take online classes, all online classes. And so there's a huge problem though, because many schools, unlike us, have decided to go all online. The Cal State schools, all online. Harvard, all online. Stanford, USC, all online. And so the students who are going to go there, who are traveling to the country to attend those campuses, are now being told, you can't go there, and the government's actually not going to allow them to come in because they're on this list of institutions. I assume there's a list somewhere that's announced they're going all online. Now, universities like ours, we actually fall into category 2, which is we are offering face-to-face classes in a hybrid setting. And so our students don't have a problem, but there's some anxiety out there. Our students are wondering, am I going to be sent home if we go all online again? I'm an optimistic person. I would think that if we started off face-to-face and then had to transition to all online at some point, that the federal government would grant that waiver again. But there's a lot of anxiety about that. There's also a lot of anxiety, and the anxiety is coming from universities that have decided to go all online, who now worry about the students either not coming. Now they can continue their online studies at home in their home country, but not all of them have equal access to a computer or to the internet at home, access to library materials. Sometimes it's difficult online from international locations. They're at a different time zone, so getting involved in synchronous classes can be difficult. It'd be really challenging to take your online your courses all online from a different country. Not impossible, but very challenging. Those schools that have already announced they're going all online see this as an incredible threat because we have been very inviting to international students. We have almost 900 international students on our campus in any given year. And if those students are not allowed to come to our campus, that can have an impact on the university's bottom line, but can also, it involves or impacts access to our system of higher education, which is why we invite international students to be here in the first place. We want to help students have a shot at a better life, and we believe we get that through a 4-year college degree on an American campus. That was my dream. I came to America to get a 4-year degree, so my plan was to go back and take that education back with me. I met a girl, she didn't want to marry a copper Canadian. It's a long story, I ended up staying. And so, but that's where we are right now. Our students aren't affected, except they're nervous about interpreting the rule.
That looks like all of the questions that were in the chat. Does anybody else have one?
I was going to echo while we're waiting. Tom's point, we all need grace every day. Absolutely.
Yes.
I need all the grace I can get.
All right. I guess if there's no more questions, I appreciate your the presentation, Dr. Damphousse. That's good information. Like I said, it's always these are challenging times. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I know it'll change from 1 minute to the next. So
it's changing for everybody. We're a microcosm of everybody else. Every institution, every complex institution is struggling to deal with this. The way this all works is people trust each other, that we're all going to do our part to keep each other safe, that we're all going to follow the rules as much as possible, that the people who are making the rules have everyone's best interest at the center of their decision making, and that the people who are engaging with the process are trusting the process. Trust and grace. Those are, if I can leave you 2 good words, trust and grace are what's going to get us through this. And science.
I agree.
We're glad you're here with us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Next week, Remotary episode 16. Derek Spiegel with Refuge Counseling Center is going to speak to us about how to handle stress during this time. And then thought for the day, knowledge is power, information is liberating, education is the premise of progress in every society and every family. Kofi Annan. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the group before we adjourn?
Good job, Gary.
Good job. Yeah. Great
Yep.
first thing.
Well done, Gary.
It'll get better. I promise. So go forth and have a great week.
Nice
Take care,
stuff.
everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Damphousse.